Hey, welcome back to my channel. If you guys haven't been here before, my channel is really pretty much dedicated to giving back to the community, the car community, on how to, restore your car, bring back your car back to life, making sure that it's well maintained and everything. Mostly on smaller things, things that I come across on my own cars. I drive old cars myself. My newest car is that TL. It's a 2008. You can see behind me, I got my 2005 and 2000 uh, cars, the G35 and the truck, and they're in tip-top shape, and I'm trying to keep it that way and help you guys on the way. In this video, it's more for you really OCD folks. It's going to be about, headlights cracking, like small little cracks, not enough where you can catch your fingernail on, but this is enough to annoy me where you look at a different angle and you can see those little cracks even if you restored your headlights recently. It can be called crazing, it can be called microcracks, spider cracks, whatever. Just pretty much little small cracks within the plastic that you can't seem to get rid of. So I accidentally found a way to do it, so I'll show you guys the process. So what I'm pretty much talking about is most people are going to see this headlight and they're going to be like, holy crap, that looks good. It's super shiny and everything. Um, no yellowing or anything like that. But then the 1%ers are going to look at this and it's like, oh shit. At this angle, you can see this, but at this angle, you don't really see anything. But what I'm talking about is like up here, you'll see like a weird kind of small cracks inside. Most of the time, I have seen some of the times on like my F-150, for example, where the cracks are inside in it. And then really, I think this is caused by heat. And so normally if you sand it down with like a normal kit, like this 3M kit right here, you start off with 500 grit and it doesn't really take that off. It just takes the yellowing off. So for me to do this, I have to go a little bit deeper than what that normally does. So I will be using this right here, which is 220 grit. And on this headlight, this was actually worse. I actually went down to 120. I will show you guys the process, but this is all sanded and everything. This was the worst headlight. I ended up testing it first so that I know if it works or not. And if it was not gonna work, I guess I had to scrap it. Luckily I didn't. All it needs right now is just clear coat. I'm down to 3,000 or up to 3,000 grit. And there is no spider cracks anymore. So of course this isn't gonna work for everything. But I figured I'd try it since these are, $1,000 brand new. I don't feel like spending it or even swapping out to eBay lenses. I don't really think that the longevity is going to be good. So I'd rather have OEM and keep it that way. So just stay tuned and we'll go through the process. All right. So these are kind of the things that I use to do this. First that I can't show here is your patience. You got to be very patient with this because you can easily mess up your headlight with this, but with with just kind of persistence here and just taking your time, I was able to get from a lot of scratches or a lot of spider cracks to this right here, which is it'll look all even and everything once I clear coat it. But the main thing I'm focusing on is no matter which angle you're looking at, hopefully you don't get motion sickness, that you don't get any spider cracks. And it's those little cracks that you see only at certain angles. All right, so depending on how bad yours is, mine was really bad on that. So I started off with 180 grit. I think I said 120 earlier, but it's very similar. Just something really aggressive. I sand by hand, so pretty much I hold it like this, and then I just sand in a straight line. And then you want to move up in your grits. So this is going to be your 220. So since I bought it, I anticipating using this, but since I produced too much heat, it actually ended up making up some cracks for me. So just be very careful. That's why I'm doing it by hand. Luckily I have this right here, which I'll link in the description later. It came with the 3M kit, so you just stick it on and sand it. Once you get through the 220, you want to move up to 320. After 320, I'm using 500 and then 800, and then I'll do 800 wet sanding, just so that I can get rid of the majority of it. And then after 800, I'll jump to 1,000. After 1,000, I'll jump to 3,000. So 3,000 is where you're seeing it right now. You can actually get some 3M clear where you just wipe it on, but you know, it's not gonna last as long as actually using a 2K clear, which is what I'm gonna be using. And then where I started using this guy right here is pretty much at anything that's wet sanding, because you're really cooling it down, is 800, 1,000, and 3,000. So everything else before that is going to be by hand, because otherwise you can get some trial and error issues like I did right here. Little micro bubbles inside, and that's something that you can't take out. Luckily it's on the bottom, it's very minimal, so if I didn't point it out, most people probably won't notice it. Let's get started with the process. All right, so make sure you wear something that you're willing to get dirty. This is definitely going to be a really dirty process, and a mask. So mine is clear coated, that's why I'm starting with 180, but realistically you can probably start with 220. I did that on my TL headlight last time as well, and it worked out really good. So you just want to go in even strokes. Alright, so this is kind of where I'm at right now. This 180 grit's really aggressive, so your headlight's going to look like shit. What you're looking for is consistency. You don't want to see like the different layers and everything of your headlights, because that means that you only sand it through the clear, you didn't sand through anything else if there is clear left. Like right here in this corner, that's not done yet. And then since this is going to be taking off most of the material, this step at least, you want to focus on the areas that you had those spider cracks on, which I'm focusing up on here because the bottom was fine. But yeah, it takes a lot of sanding, but don't be alarmed if it looks like this. But just remember, if you're not a patient person, you should not be doing this, because then you end up having to buy new headlights, and then it costs even more money. Alright, so in this step I'm ready to move on to the 220. It's going to be hard to see because you can't see the spider cracks anymore, just because it has to be clear for you to see it. So just continue on, and you can always touch up the steps later. Just remember that if you touch it up later, you're going to have to go through the same process of the different grits changes. And one thing to note is make sure you don't put too much pressure. You're not trying to gouge the plastic, you're just trying to remove material. So let's move forward. Alright, so once you get to finer grits, you'll see that the headlight's starting to look a little bit better. So just continue forward. Right here you'll notice, like, you have two different shades, which means that I didn't sand through the other layer up here in this little section right here. So that's where you want to focus, and of course you want to focus on where you had the cracks on, which mine were kind of right here. And so you'll be taking quite a bit of material off, and this stuff is nasty, so just make sure you wear your mask. Okay, so now that you're happy with your results, you can move on to the next step. Just make sure everything is uniform, which it is right now. I'll be using the 320. Alright, so this is what looks like after 500 grits. It starts clearing a lot. This 3M kit's actually really good. I mean, I've used a lot of different ones, different sandpaper grits. For some reason theirs ended up being more consistent. So that's why I'm using like all the 3M stuff. I'm not sponsored by them or anything like that, but I just think they have really good consistency with their stuff. If you use like cheaper sandpaper, sometimes you'll get some where, you know, the grit might not exactly be what reads. You get, you know, a couple of stray rocks or whatever in there, with whatever they use, abrasives, and yeah, this is good. So you want to take your time every step, because otherwise you're gonna have to redo a lot of it. And with this, it starts getting clearer and clearer, and you know, right now this is probably the step where you can kind of see if you miss any spots or not. If you notice, before I missed a spot right here, so I went back to you know, the 180 to 225 or 220, and then I went back up to 500 from there. I actually skipped 320 just because it wasn't so bad over here, but it's definitely clearing up a lot. And then we'll move on to 800 now. Alright, so I just finished several several passes on the 800. I just try to keep it in sections. It looks really good. Everything's getting a lot clearer. So now this is the wet sanding part. Alright, so for the wet sanding part, I'll just be using a spray bottle with my Milwaukee tool, but I'm setting it to the polisher. I don't want to be too fast with sanding, so this is max at 2800 RPMs, which I'm only gonna go halfway throttle anyways. I have an interface pad so that it can go with the contours, and I'm using a new 800 pad with it. You'll notice I moved this somewhere else just because it flings everywhere, and it's really hard to get off, so keep that in mind as well. So since 800 will give you a bit of a good amount of clarity, now you can see that there's no more stress cracks on there, so the spider cracks. So if I were to see any, I would pretty much touch those areas right now, just because I'm not that far in that stage yet, and then you just go through the process again. But this looks pretty good now. I'm pretty happy with it, so just continue on. Sorry guys, my battery died on my GoPro, so I didn't get the last part of it, but pretty much what you missed was the wet sanding of maybe the rest of 1,000 and 3,000. So I went ahead and finished everything. So this was the passenger side, and Remember there was a lot of spiderweb cracking. I guess they call it crazing, and now it's gone. This last step here is 3,000, and all I need left is clear coat on this, and it'll be ready to go. So pretty much, just to remind you guys, you have to have a lot of patience. If you try to rush it through, you're gonna screw this up. So I went from 120 or 180. I don't know why I keep forgetting that. To 220 dry. So 180 dry, 220 dry. Then I went up to 330 dry, and then 500 dry. And then I went to 500 wet, 800 wet, 1,000 wet, and 3,000 wet. So each headlight took me 45 minutes to an hour to sand. So it actually took quite some time. I touched up a lot of places. Like if I didn't get deep enough here, I touched it up with 500 wet and moved my way back up. Because once you get to this level, actually maybe once you get to 1,000, you can start looking at different angles to see if you see any more crazing, and I don't see any more. You can be as OCD as you want, or you can take out the majority, but for me, since I'm doing it already, might as well just do it right. And then after this, I'll show you guys how I clear coat. A lot of times you can easily ruin, all that work by rushing through the clear coat. So we'll go through that process as well. All right, so the headlight's ready for clear. I masked it up. I cleaned it with 90% isopropyl alcohol. The last step of sanding was 300 or 3,000, and I'm just using this Spray Max 2K 2-in-1 headlight clear. Not sure what different it is or why it's different than the regular one, but I figured I'd give it a shot. And of course you want your mask so that you're not breathing in any of that stuff. All right, so first step, very, very light. All you want is for this to be tacky. You don't want it to be too heavy on the first one, because then you'll end up getting runs. And I've had some bad luck where it starts kind of cracking your lens again, like what you originally sanded this for. So now that this has sat for about 2 minutes, you're ready to do the next step. So just go ahead and spray a little bit more on the heavy side. And just let it sit again. All right, now that it's set for another 2 minutes, I'm just gonna put in the last coat. So the third coat's gonna be the last for me. All right, so double checking, top needs a little bit more. All right, so that's it. All right, and this is what the headlights look like after the clear coat's cured. I did wet sand some of it, little nibs here and there. You can see from all the different angles that there is no more crazing, spider cracks, stress cracks, whatever you call it. These were really bad before, and it saved me $1,000 for both of these. And so I hope you guys learned something, and see you guys on the next episode. Thanks for watching.